Greta Schulz, author of To Sell Is Not to Sell and founder of Schulz Business Solutions. I want to talk to you today about some of the things that hold us back as salespeople. Now, I know that we think that what potentially holds us back is we're not making enough calls. Well, that's obviously a problem. Or we aren't closing as many sales. Well, that could be a lot of reasons. But sometimes you feel like you're running on all cylinders and everything is going forward the way it's supposed to, but it still isn't working the way you would like it to, and you don't understand why. Well, there's a couple of things that are kind of interesting that are our beliefs, our psychological beliefs that somewhere along the way we were programmed to believe that are either very supportive or very non-supportive in sales. Typically, they come from the atmosphere of either how we grew up personally or how we grew up in a business environment and what we were originally taught. That becomes kind of important and sticks in our head, and usually our the back of our head, more of the not so conscious, more of the subconscious, and that's where a lot of it comes from. And the reason that's important is because our subconscious is a lot stronger than our conscious. So I want to give you some examples today. One of the things that you have to learn is that the way you sell has a direct relationship to the way you buy. That's right. The way you buy is going to be a reflection of the way you ultimately sell. I'm going to give you an example. One of the weaknesses that you could potentially have is allowing people to tell you, I want to think it over. Because most of the time I want to think it over is an excuse for I'm really not interested. But we don't catch that as an excuse. A red flag doesn't go up if in fact we buy things that way. I'll give you an example. My husband, who I love dearly, is the most procrastinating, think it over person that I have ever met. He doesn't buy anything without painfully thinking about it forever. Now, is that a good thing? You betcha it's a good thing for our pocketbook, because if we were both like me, we'd be broke. But I'll give you an example of what he does and if he was selling what he would accept. My husband has been looking for a new car for, 2 years now. His car has been paid off for about 4 years, and that's really a terrific thing. But he's been eyeing one of those hardtop Wrangler Jeeps, which I think are so cool. And as soon as he told me he liked that, I'm like, well, that's terrific. Let's go look at one. You don't have a car payment. Let's go see. And he, of course, is very conservative and said, my car works fine. I don't need it. But he looks at it and looks at it. Well, one day we were in the car, and our kids were in the car with us. We were all going to dinner. And we pulled up next to this burgundy-colored hardtop Wrangler. And my husband said, that's the Jeep that I'm going to get. And the kids busted out laughing. And they busted out laughing because they know that doesn't mean anything anytime soon. So that was probably 9 months ago now, and he still doesn't have it. Now, again, that is a very good and very healthy thing for our house because he drives a car that works fine and he doesn't have a car payment. But if he was in selling, if he was a salesperson and somebody said to him, this looks really good, I like it, but I haven't really done a lot of investigation, let me think about it a little bit. If in fact somebody said that to him, he wouldn't see that at all, because what he would say subconsciously is, makes sense to me, that's what I would do. And he allows people to say, or he would, he's not in sales, but he would allow people to say, let me think it over, let me think about it, I'll get back to you, you get back to me. And he believes that because he's the type of person that does think things over. Now, it doesn't mean those people in front of him or in front of you aren't going to think about it, but most of the time people aren't going to. So you have to go to a clear next step, which we've talked about before, and you're not going to catch that or do that if you're the type of person that thinks, hey, everybody needs to think things over. That's one of the examples. Another example, which is pretty important, is if you are a person who feels uncomfortable calling at the top. And I call that calling on veto. If you're the type of person that is uncomfortable calling a CEO or a president, and even if you're saying to yourself right now, oh, I'm not, I want you to ask yourself these questions. Have you ever talked to a company, an organization, And when you talk to them, you go to some sort of a middle level person, somebody that's willing to see you, somebody that can give you some stamp of approval, but they can't sign on the dotted line. Or they will talk to you, they'll take your presentation, but they have to just send it up the flagpole for somebody else to actually make the decision. And you are either saying to yourself, well, I don't want to go around that person and make them upset, or I can't talk to the president or the CEO. He doesn't talk to salespeople. If you've ever said any of those things, then you have an issue with calling at the top. You believe that what you're doing is going to be a bother to them. They're very busy. They don't have time for things like this. That doesn't involve them. That's a problem. And that's a problem within your own ears. Because whatever it is that you do, and I don't care what it is, eventually it moves up the line to the person who makes a decision. So it's very important. Sorry! It's very important to make sure that you are calling at the highest level you can. The way you're going to feel more comfortable with that is start thinking about, what is that person thinking about? What are they worried about? If you're selling advertising, they're certainly not saying, wow, what is my ad going to look like? And, how often should I have it run? And what size should I have? They don't care about that. What they care about is, what are I being seen like out there? What are people thinking of me? What's our branding? That's what they care about. So you have to be able to have the right level of conversation, and then you should be able to get to that top level of person. So if you have a long selling cycle, because you have to move up the hill as opposed to down the hill, you may have this weakness. And if you do, you need to get yourself really comfortable with what the CEOs and presidents and decision makers and organizations think about and care about. And once you know that, you will be more comfortable to have that level of conversation. But it will hurt your sales a lot working uphill as opposed to down. Because if your competition is smart enough to figure out how to get to that top level person and have a good conversation, you ain't got a chance. So make sure that if you have that weakness, you're handling it. Now, there is on my website, which of course is behind me, www.schulzbusiness.com. On my website, there is a short assessment that will show you some of your weaknesses and strengths in these things, and I would recommend you go take it. If you like the stuff we're talking about today, and if you think, gosh, I really want to know what those things are that are holding me back, I just don't know what it is, go into my website, but go to Tools. And when you click on Tools, go down towards the bottom where you see Full Sales Assessment. That is a 15-page analysis of what your weaknesses and strengths are and how they're helping you or hindering you. It's really important information. So I would go to that. That is, I think it's $200. But anyway, that one you have to pay for. So if you want that, you need to go on and you need to click on it, and then it'll ask you for a code. You can email me at greta@schulzbusiness.com. I will take your credit card and I'll email you the code, and you can have that full assessment. I think it's really important and powerful. You got to know where you're starting from. It's like it's like going to the doctor and getting all those tests and seeing where what's going on inside your body. Same type of thing. I think it's really important, but at least go on and take the small, shorter version of it, which is free. Do something, because you got to know what you're starting with. Even though you think you know what your strengths and beliefs are, it's interesting when you get it on paper. Good selling.